Well, now you know why we had Thursday arranged the way we did. Till we got the call that he was going to be in court today. So we've done a lot of pivoting, but otherwise there would have been 10,000 of us over in that big arena ready to listen to President Trump at about 12:15 today. But anyways, gentlemen, we're gonna wrap this thing up with two of our great CEOs in the Bakken. Danny Brown serves as president and CEO on the board at Chord Energy. Mr. Brown has over 26 years of experience in oil and gas industry and previously served as the EVP of International and Deepwater and Onshore for Anadarko Petroleum. Mr. Brown was named CEO of Oasis Petroleum in 2021, as well as the board chair of Oasis Managed Midstream Partners in July of 2022. Oasis Petroleum merged with Whiting Petroleum to form Chord Energy. Thanks for being here, Danny. Todd Slawson is the president of Slawson Companies. The company's been wildcatting in North Dakota since 1975 and remains a self-funded, privately held, debt-free company. Slawson has operated in 10 states and drilled over 5,000 wells. Slawson drilled his first horizontal Bakken shale well in 1989. Slawson serves as the chairman of the North Dakota Petroleum Council Board of Directors. Thanks, Todd, for that and all you've done for the state. So, guys, we're the final show here for the 2024 WBPC. What's your thoughts of what this conference means to Chord and you, Danny, and what your learnings are this week?
Well, before I go into that, Ron, I'd just like to thank you and Todd both for your leadership on NDPC. It's fantastic. This is a great event. We're super happy to be here. And you know, when I think about this event, it is just so unique because you've got this whole collection of folks that are interested in advancing Bakken, advancing North Dakota, advancing our industry, and by extension from that, advancing America. And so it's a collection of operators, it's a collection of service providers, it's a collection of regulators, it's a collection of politicians, and all of whom are necessary for us to continue to advance our industry and advance what it is that we do. And so they're all in one room. We're all sharing ideas. I find it always thought-provoking. It's a great networking opportunity for us to get around and talk to people, but it's also more important for me. It provides us with new thoughts, new ideas, new ways of thinking about how we can do our business and advance our business. And I'm a big believer in continuous improvement. We preach that all the time within Chord, and it's ideas that we get at places like this that allow us to bring that back into our organization. Think about how can we be better, and by extension, if we're better, then I think we make our industry better, we make the state of North Dakota better, we make America better, which makes the world stronger. So it's a fantastic bit that's here.
Thanks for having so many of your Chord team members here. It was fantastic for all the companies that had so many of their employees show up this week, and I think that's the real value of the depth of learning and opportunity. Before we jump over to Todd, you and I had a discussion yesterday. You were out in Mandaree, North Dakota, in the west segment. Tell us why you were so excited last night when we were chatting.
Well, we were, coming up here, one of the things that I wanted to do is go by our different field operations, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, but we've announced a pretty big deal for our organization, which is a new acquisition for us. And so I was out in that neck of the woods around Mandaree, driving down to Killdeer and then over to Bismarck, and the natural beauty of that area of the state of North Dakota was just absolutely stunning. I don't know. I was driving with our COO, and we remarked we'd never seen a prettier location on the side of the road. Is the location. It was absolutely beautiful. The natural beauty, the natural scenery, and was just beautiful. And we drove about 100 yards, and then maybe we saw an even more beautiful one. So anyway, it was just fantastic that North Dakota is blessed with not only natural resources, but a lot of natural beauty, and I just enjoyed being part of it yesterday.
As North Dakotans, we like to hear that. I mean, it's. I think it's when we bring people for tours, and in fact, Jennifer and all those Jewish friends from New York City, they're just astounded at the raw beauty, and it's agriculture with oil and gas. It's not and it's one of the things that we're trying to display. So Todd, you're here as chairman of this of the show, I guess. So you've been coming around North Dakota for decades and decades and decades, and you told a story last night. The first person you met the first day on the job 40 years ago was a guy by the name of Jim Arthod.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I came right out of school, University of Kansas. My father was a well-known wildcatter in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and I was interviewing. I couldn't get a job Everybody knew who my father was, and so I basically asked him for a job, which I wasn't planning to do, and I moved to North Dakota and came up here, and it's the best decision I ever made up here. So, but the company's been here since 1975, mainly drilling Red River wells and all that, and so we've had a great history here. And this has been a great conference. I knew you'd comment about the conference, and in college we always called it collaborate to graduate. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We're all collaborating. We're moving the ball along, and so that's the cooperation here. And this has been a wonderful conference. It's unfortunate that a lot of the talks have to be on government overreach and excessive regulation, but we'll get around it. We'll get it changed. So, but great conference.
Tell us a little bit about your history with the Bakken and some of your experiences decades ago before we really knew how to do this.
Well, Meridian started which Meridian turned into Burlington. It was Burlington Northern. It was the railroad acreage, but Meridian started this in 1987, drilling the shale itself, not the Middle Bakken, but the shale itself, and the whole concept was to try to intercept fractures. And it was just new technology at that point. At that point, we didn't even really know how to make the curve, anything, and basically Meridian was kind of keeping it pretty secret. And a couple of years later, I decided to go ahead and drill our first one, a well called the Sidewinder number 1-7. And that well made national press. It was the biggest well hit to date. Meridian's wells were kind of about 200 to 400 barrels per day. Nothing too exciting at that point, maybe not even economic. But the Sidewinder well hit a swarm of fractures, came in about 1,300 barrels of oil per day, and it made national news. It was syndicated in, the article was syndicated in the paper. If they could put the article from the Billings Gazette up, I'd appreciate it. But that article was kind of, it's interesting. It's tough to read that article. I'm going to advance the slide one. And here's some excerpts from it. First of all, it was $1.5 million. We drilled about 20 of those shale wells before prices fell down, and the last ones were around $800,000. That kind of seems silly. They weren't fracked. But that one quote, a technology that has potential of significantly increasing the amount of oil held in the reserve by the United States. Wow, what a statement. How true that became. It was actually about an 800-foot lateral. That's incorrect, about 1,800 feet. Another quote from that article, the technology, unfortunately, is one you do by learning. Well, we all know that. We've innovated, we've learned, we've failed, we try again, we've got it down. So, but that was great. So then on the, I made a clipping of that article, and I found it years later. And I had clipped out two things in the same clipping, two articles in the same clipping, and this one was really interesting because oil imports hit record high of 54%. So how much that first article affected the second article here, looking back at this. This is February of 1990 when this thing came out. We drilled the well in 1989, but now we're a net exporter of petroleum products, not an importer of 54%. So it's amazing.
So you drilled that well in the shale itself, and literally, as all of the talks this week have talked about, is like, it really, in North Dakota Bakken, even after that, it took us 16 plus years to figure out the right technology, get into Middle Bakken, and a lot of investment, and as Harold talked, a lot of policy. People could have walked away from this thing just as easy. And in 2009, 7, 8, 9, I remember those, as you moved out of partial Zanesfield, it wasn't working. And you guys kept investing and kept exploring. Yeah, the oil prices had a lot to do with why this stopped. 1992, oil prices fell, and they were down for about 12 years. Other people like Harold Hamm went into the Red River B and was playing different formations. People were maybe the Mission Canyon and stuff like that, trying the horizontal technology and different things. But then when oil prices came back up, LICO started drilling in the Elm Coulee field, which that find they called in the front page of Wall Street Journal the biggest find since Prudhoe Bay. And now North Dakota just makes that look silly.
anyway, yeah, the Coulee play then took the technology back off.
2008, Williston Basin Petroleum Conference in Minot, North Dakota, USGS came out and said there's 3.2 billion barrels recoverable in the Bakken, and it's larger than Prudhoe Bay, and the world went wild, and here we are, 5 billion already. So, Danny, Chord's not exactly been asleep at the wheel the last period of time here, so tell us about the thought process and the transactional logic behind your Enerplus transaction.
Yeah, so that's something we're very, very excited about as an organization. Our organization is wholly made up essentially of Bakken. We are a Williston company, one of the only, really maybe the only Williston pure play organization out there. And so in that vein, as we think about where we want to invest our money, where we want to invest our resources, where we want to invest for our shareholders, we really like North Dakota, we really like the Williston Basin. And so we want to grow our position here, and we were able to do that with the transaction that we announced in February. We expect to close it at the end of this month. In fact, day before yesterday, our shareholders had a vote, and 99.9% of our shareholders voted to move forward with the deal. And we expect to close in May, and that will be the acquisition and merging of Enerplus into Chord Energy. And when we finish that transaction, from an acreage standpoint, we'll hold about 1.3 million acres, operated acres in North Dakota, which is fantastic, and we'll be the #1 producer within the basin, which is also great. From an investment standpoint, as I look at the investment and impact we'll have on Bakken, between our capital, as a pro forma organization, between our capital budget, the OpEx that we spend, the royalties that we pay, and the taxes that we pay, it's about $3.5 billion annually that will go into sort of greater Williston Basin via our organization. So it's really important to our organization. We love what we're doing here. This is all because we've got a great reservoir, we've got a great workforce, we've got a great regulatory and political environment, and we're happy to be here.
Pure play Bakken company at this point?
Pure play Bakken company at this point. We've got we'll have a small non-op position in Marcellus. It's about 2% of the pro forma EBITDA of the organization. So we are a Bakken company. That's where our heart and soul is. That's where our workforce is at its key, and that's really what makes our company tick, and we're proud to be that way.
Todd, I think all corporate decisions, I think in your company get made by you.
and usually very quickly.
So tell us about Slawson a little bit. What I'm telling you, when I started looking at the Bakken and we started studying the Bakken and where you were as a privately owned small company with a 30+ year footprint here, but the technology that you have deployed through Slawson and your increased footprint and the talent that you've brought on and as a small private company is frankly, it's impressive what you've done in the last 15 years. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, it's not without a little bit of luck, but basically when I took over from my father, I was 27 years old, drilled this well. It was one of the first wells I ever drilled. My father basically was a great exploration guy, but just basically back then, you just never thought oil prices were going to go back down, and it was the Reagan deal of flooding out, of getting Saudi Arabia to flood the market and to collapse the Iron Curtain. But and so I took over an oil company that basically had about $11 million still in vendor debt to pay off and had really no assets. But we just continued to drill and drill and drill. That's kind of what we do. We're really not an acquisition company, really never have been, just by the drill bit, and have made it work and been self-funded. To this day, I'm proud to say I don't have any debt anywhere in this company, in our real estate department or anything, and just when something's too big for me, I'll find someone else to take a piece of it or something like that, and just have grown and hit some good wells early on. One of the first wells I drilled also was an Coulee well called the Matador. Came on at 1,000 barrels a day, and it's paid out 20 times since then. It was only $2 million to drill it. When we spud the well, it was $20. When I produced the well, those wells were fracked then at that point in Coulee, it was $60. And so just pure luck. But it's grown and grown and grown organically, and it's been a good career for me. I'm very blessed. Basically, I started my career at a young age in the Bakken, and I'll end my career in the Bakken. What a wonderful career.
Peter Luck has a weird way of following great decisions and great minds sometimes as well. Yeah, we all know. So, Danny, you know, as you look at, I know that you guys just received a grant award. Big talk this week is obviously not only stimulation within the DSUs and all the rock that's left. You're doing some unique things there that you've told me about, but also your DOE award to really advance some EOR technology with EERC. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we're really excited and pleased to be working with EERC and DOE on this enhanced oil recovery opportunity. I'm going to have to call it green oil now after hearing the governor talk. So we're excited about the opportunity that affords, not just for our company but really for the whole basin, because I think there's you know, as we've looked at our own development plan, we've gone to longer and longer laterals, which we think really is going to extend the economic inventory within the basin and allow us to get further and further afield what was the core of the basin, but still make really strong economic returns, which is going to be great for industry, great for our company, great for North Dakota. But the next leg, we're still leaving a lot of oil in the ground, as we all know. And so how do we liberate more of that oil? And if we can liberate more of that oil with CO2 and actually store some of the CO2 while we do that, so much the better. And so it's something we're really excited about. So it's going to be a long process. There is a lot of laboratory work, a lot of hard science, a lot of sort of technological challenges that are associated with it, so we can understand exactly how this pore space takes the CO2, how much recovery we can get, et cetera. And so we're really excited to have been you know, awarded the grant to advance this ball. As we think maybe more broadly about what's next for us and what's next for the basin, we're also excited that internally we've started a new group we're calling New Ventures internally, and that's really to look for adjacencies between sort of middle Bakken development. So whether that's looking at new exploitation opportunities from the surface to the center of the earth, whether that's looking for at EOR type opportunities, you know, whatever is sort of adjacent to our core E&P operations, how can we continue to do business in North Dakota, grow our revenue streams here, which is going to be great for our company and great for the state.
The room up there yesterday, the 4 EOR pilot projects, and that room was packed, and everybody that is looking forward was upstairs in that room yesterday to figure out, okay, where's the next 10 billion barrels coming in? You know, I know you guys now have a project. Lynn highlighted the four pilot projects. You guys are going to be another pilot. I talked to the ERC folks, and I think that you've all staked out your claim, and now we have to go back to the drawing board like we did on gas capture and everything else, and we got to share and share and share and figure out the best way to crack the next code on this thing. Would you guys, Todd? Would you agree?
Yeah, there's a lot of oil left, and so, but it's amazing what we have changed. If you just look at all the changes we have made, and there are a lot more that are going to come. And I mean, we're now drilling 3-mile laterals routinely. I mean, it was about 2017 when we first started doing that, and we were all started out drilling 1-mile laterals, and going to 2 was, you know, now it's 3, and then 3.5. We drilled a 3.5-mile lateral in 2018, so that's been 6 years ago. We've done that. People talking about 4. Completions get a little bit tough about that. But you talked someone talked earlier about all the oil left over, and you know, at the heels and the toes, and section line wells are being drilled, and some of those earlier wells were only fracked, you know, 1280s fracked with 9 stages. Now that's kind of silly, and so how much oil was left behind there? The refracts that are going on. It wasn't that long ago that you drill a 2-mile lateral, but the first mile was contributing disproportionately more than the second mile was. So maybe, you know, wells will start, if the first one started at the north end and went south, the next one will come in at the south and go north and maybe recapture more. There's a lot of oil. Prices probably need to help, but we'll figure it out.
You had somebody speak, I believe it was Tuesday afternoon, on what a U-turn well, and everybody wasn't in that room. Can you give us the Cliff Note version of what that does?
Yeah, that was our geologist Dylan Dolezal, a North Dakota native. But we're not the first to do it, but we're the first to bring it to North Dakota. And it was basically some of the earlier people drilling in Montreal County have 640s that were developed and stranded. You can't do a 1280, it's just blocked. But it's drilling coming down 1 mile and then doing an 8-degree turn and going completely back 180 and then going back north again and another mile. And it's amazing. So basically you're getting a little over 2 miles of lateral in a 640 spacing unit, and it only took them a day and a half longer to drill that than it did a 1280 well. And the amount of money that it saved was not having 2 wells, 2 locations, two everything. So we're getting ready to frack it this weekend. It'll be real interesting. There's probably not a lot of applications for it, but one of the interesting things that Dylan said was we had a lot of room, torque and drag-wise, to go further. It might be able to go a mile and a half down and a mile and a half back. Who knows? But very interesting.
And Danny, I think you guys were doing end cap wells. Is that right?
Well, we are, and as I think about I was reflecting on what we heard Robert Harvard talk about earlier today, and some of the comments that Todd just made. I think about all the technology that's going on in industry and the sort of the advances that's going to allow us to make. We just drilled a 3-mile lateral, I think a month or 2 ago, in 8.7 days, I think was the time frame on that. And so just shocking to me how quickly we've been, and they become matter of course. There's nothing special now about drilling 3-mile laterals. We'll be drilling 4-mile laterals beyond. But as I think about the opportunities with fiber, as I think about the opportunities as the computing power improves, this at its core is oil and gas and oil and gas development is a high-tech industry. And as that technology continues to improve, and I see it, honestly, even accelerating right now, we're going to continue to be able to sort of push the ball further and further and further. I'm really excited about the future of our industry as we're able to employ some of this new technology and continue to push the boundaries further and further and expand the opportunity within the basin.
1280 well, 8 days roughly. Let me contrast that to when I started. 11,000-foot Red River wells, 50 days. About 15 bits. Took a long, long time. So it's in some of the first horizontal wells that we were drilling, 1-mile laterals, not unusual to be 20 to 30 days doing that. Not unusual to have 10 or so failures of MWDs or something like that in a 1-mile lateral. I want to shout out basically that innovation was just not to the operators and the engineers of the oil companies. I'm going to give most of the credit to the service companies. They innovated. This exhibit hall here is filled with new mousetraps. Everybody is showing off their new mousetraps, and they continue to innovate. And being a privately held company, it was easier for service companies to come to us because they could get decisions made easier. Didn't have to go up the whole board, to figure out approvals. And I'm a petroleum engineer, so that helped. With a small office of 25 people. But they were always coming up with something new to try, and we were happy to try it. And you're talking about 1280 wells in 8 days. Yeah, amazing.
Guys, we've made a big deal about the 5 billion barrels deal today, because it is a big deal. But Danny, when you go meet with investors and you talk about as a pure play Bakken operator now, and you talk about the resource, and how does that, but what's out there, come into those discussions?
Well, the Bakken is a world-class resource. The Williston Basin is a world-class resource. There's no doubt about it. And that's not to take anything away from the other world-class basins that we have in the lower 48 and around the world, and certainly Permian gets a lot of attention, and it is a world-class basin. But so is the Bakken, and the 5 billion barrels that we've produced to date, I think, is testimony to that. And there's 5 billion more barrels where that came from, and so we'll produce that as well. From an investor standpoint, it has been fun for me to be able to go out on the road, talk with investors, and talk about Bakken, talk about the Williston Basin. And one of the things I point out is honestly, and don't want to diminish the hard work that goes in every day to us producing here, and the forethought and the forthrightness with which we carry out our activities. But the reality is, this in many ways is an easier basin to work in. And so that's one of the things that I love about it and love to talk to investors about is the geology here is fairly benign. The subsurface characteristics here are great. The repeatability and understanding what you're going to get is far higher than in some other basins. Some of the parent-child relationship difficulties that some other basins see, we don't see as much here. The seismicity is not as much. The produced water that comes with oil production is not as much. The oil itself is higher. Permian, this is a much oilier basin than the Permian Basin is. And so all those characteristics are fantastic. And if you're looking to make a profit and to make an investment, the Bakken is a great place to invest. And investors really, most don't understand that, but as you're able to explain it to them, it really does resonate. And so that's something we've been able and are happy to go out and talk to and sort of raise the investor awareness of what it is that's going on at Bakken, which is important, obviously, for our organization because we're really a Bakken-only company.
I'd be glad to send some 5 billion barrel socks along with you if that helps.
Fantastic.
Todd?
Yeah, I'd like to expand upon Danny's comments, basically, because what you said about geology was really key. The homogeneous reservoir made this area to be the testing ground. Because as an engineer, if you change two variables, you don't know which one improved the well or which one constant. So basically, when you take the variable of the geology out, this becomes a great place to test. So you change one variable, move 1 mile over or half a mile over, and if you get something different, it's because of what you changed, not because of what the geology is. And so this became the testing ground for Texas and every place else and all the technology. And so once we got it improved and everything else, Texas picked it up and took it. But the Bakken started it, and the Bakken was the testing ground. The Bakken improved it.
Guys, one final question. We've covered all the regulations, the extremely punitive regulatory policies that are coming out of the federal agencies. And one of the amazing things that we've seen is that it used to be, they'd always target the mega operators. And it seems like the administration now at these LEPs, they're targeting small operators. They're trying to run small operators out of business, thinking the big guys will just comply. And the methane tax, all other taxes. So two completely different companies on the stage here. How does that affect your business, Todd? And you both have to comply, but Danny, you've got a big operation now. You've got focus teams on that. Todd's got Todd and Eric.
Well, I'm the small guy in the room, and I get picked on the most. No doubt about it, I am the poster child for government overreach. Because I am the privately held company and the small company in this basin, they go after me the most because they have a philosophy of hang the Christian at the gate and the townspeople will follow. And I have seen it time and time again. We are always fighting it. They're always picking on us. I got fined $2.2 billion by the EPA for something I didn't do. We're always fighting it. And it's just a sad state of affairs that we're always having to do that.
Todd, I volunteered you last night to a number of people that we should get you to Washington and start testifying on these regulations, because as a family-owned small company, more and more American small companies need to be on that hill testifying, because that's who they're going after now. But not like they're letting you off the hook, Danny, by the way, but
yeah. No, they're not. And look, I'm a believer in smart, effective regulations. And one of the things I've liked about North Dakota, because I think that's what North Dakota's about, maybe not always on the federal level. And the thing that disappoints me most is, some of the prescriptive regulation that comes out that really stifles innovation, which I think really the key to achieving what we need to achieve as an industry is through innovation. It's not through prescriptive regulation, and that's more and more where the federal government goes. And that's something I'm concerned about. You asked earlier about the transaction, some of the transaction logic behind the acquisition of Interplus, and then even preceding that, the combination of Oasis and Whiting to form Chord. And part of it was this increasing wave of regulations, and really we called it sort of internally a tsunami of new regulations that come through. We knew that was coming our way, and it's hard for a small company to address all of that and address it all in a cost-effective manner. And so there is an advantage for a larger organization to be able to deal with that, just from the manpower and bandwidth that it takes to respond to all this and make sure you're being compliant, particularly for a public company. Because that's where we're in the crosshairs of the public eye at all times, and ensure that we're always complying with this. It's just much easier for a larger organization to do that, and it was part of the logic, in addition to all the operational synergies and the good things it's going to do for us outside of that. But being able to effectively address all of the new regulations coming forward and have the corporate bandwidth to do that was part of the rationale behind the combination.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate what you do, not only for the industry, but for North Dakota. And how about a round of applause for these guys? We've got a couple of thank yous that I want to make, but the Bismarck Event Center has just done an incredible job this week. I want to thank them. The Bismarck Mandan Convention Center and Visitors Bureau. There were parties and gatherings and people all out across this town the last couple nights. I appreciate that. The sponsors, as you know, everything in here is a reflection of your attendance and the ability to get sponsors to help us, and all of the exhibitors coming and supporting us. That was sold out. We've had a waiting list. We've had, I can't even count how many volunteers that we've got helping this week. We had volunteers everywhere. A staff of 8 people are not going to be able to do this. Our partners and co-partners in all of this. But in this whole set, and the Mobile Pro folks again built us that pumping unit. Turn that thing on, because we want to get some. We got to make it pump to make it pay, right, boys? So, but the Israel-Hamas war report is going to be right up there in room 101, 102. It's fascinating. I urge you to go. That room hopefully will be full. So with that, I greatly appreciate all of you attending this week. We are always looking for your ideas and suggestions to make this great. I think we surpassed 2,400 people, and that's a great reflection on where we're at as an industry. So thank you for coming. Drive safe. See you next time. All right. That's quite good. Thank you. That's good.